Hey YouTube, hope you guys are doing well. Today's video is going to primarily be a recap video of the ANZ Kickoff Qualifier, which took place last Wednesday, the 1st of December. I'm going to touch on briefly at the start of this a very quick recap of the ANZ Open Tournament 2, which took place the Saturday before that because I missed that video. So just so everyone's up to speed with everything. So having a look here at the top 8 teams that made it into that week. Some new names here that didn't necessarily make it the week before. Specifically, I want to highlight Death Raptor Fans and Dire Wolves, who I did indicate were people or teams capable of performing to a much higher standard than they did in the first week, and you'll see that later on. So Death Raptor Fans, Rice Apollo, Cat and Jordan AU really came out to play in this week. Magic 5 is a team of 4 people that I've never seen before in Halo. Apparently they're really good Valorant players that tested the waters, and they managed to make it into top 8 that week. And then my team also made it into top 8 that week. Shout out to myself. And then you'll see some names like NutriBullet, Divine Mind, Dire Wolves, BBR, and R-Rated, all of which you would already be familiar with from the week before. So that's our teams. Looking at the bracket and the way that it played out, NutriBullet taking on BBR in the semi-finals, winning that 2-0. Divine Mind 2-0ing R-Rated. NutriBullet 2-0ing Divine Mind in the winners finals, and then 3-2ing them in the grand finals. So that was probably the biggest upset, if you can call it that, for the event. Was obviously Divine Mind taking 2 maps off of NutriBullet. That is because we can speculate Seduce was not playing in this week. Flex Reigns filled in Seduce's place. So there was a bit of team chemistry lost within them, and also I believe Divine Mind was playing with Junior instead of Slays. So some slightly different team composition made for some slightly different results, and an interesting series nonetheless. And looking at the lower bracket, so we saw Dire Wolves 2-0ing R-Rated as well to eliminate R-Rated in 5th, 6th. Death Raptor Fans 2-0ing BBR to knock them out in 5th, 6th. And these are the 2 teams that I'd highlighted the week before, Dire Wolves and Death Raptor Fans. And we see Dire Wolves take the win over Death Raptor Fans 2-0 in the elimination semis, eliminating them at 4th, and Dire Wolves securing 3rd, with Divine Mind being your 2nd team for that week. So we had NutriBullet 1st, Divine Mind 2nd, Dire Wolves 3rd, Death Raptor Fans 4th, and then etc through 4 through 8. So that was the week 2 recap. Moving now on to the main portion of this video, which is going to be the ANZ Kickoff Qualifier. Obviously, the team that wins this moves on, and they guarantee themselves pool play at Raleigh. Then the 2nd and 3rd team from the region who will represent ANZ in Raleigh are selected by a culmination of all of the individual players' points for that team. One of the rules being that you cannot swap anyone within the team after you've competed in this event. So the lineup that you had in this event on Wednesday, December 1st, is the lineup that you have to compete with in Raleigh. And that's an important point that we'll touch on at the very end of this video, because there's been some controversy around that now that the teams have been selected, and everyone's kind of thought that through a bit further. So not to spoil that, but that will be a discussion at the end. Anyway, some more drama. If we have a look at our top 8 teams for the week, we have in this ANZ Kickoff Qualifier, NutriBullet, who, congratulations to them, got signed finally under Chiefs Esports, which is a big move for them. Chiefs is a big org in Australia, so congratulations to those boys. That's awesome news. So now our top 3 teams in Australia are represented by organisations. Obviously the Chiefs, Divine Mind and Dire Wolves are all orgs. So you're seeing some common names here. You're seeing some trends with the top teams and top players. BBR have been in every week now in the top 8. Chiefs have been in, Divine Mind have been in, Dire Wolves have been in, R-Rated have been in. Some different names in here, and ones that I wanted to highlight are 1620 Kings and Vanguard Escapee, which from my understanding are both 2 teams of nothing but Call of Duty players. I'm not sure if they play Call of Duty competitively, I can only assume so, or if they're Warzone sweaty kids that just have the skill on the stick. So they came and put up a good competition. I believe both of them finished top 6 this week. And then the final team that you're seeing there is Australian Rush, who consisted of Chef, Avank, Aleo, and Bananasaurus. So they're your top 8 teams. Let's have a quick look at how the bracket went down. Skim over that now and suffice yourself. You can see in the quarterfinals, NutriBullet 2-0'd Vanguard Escapee, one of the COD teams. BBR 2-0'd R-Rated, Divine Mind 2-0'ing Australian Rush, and Direwolves 2-0'ing 1620 Kings. And this week there was a bit more competition throughout the middle chunk of the bracket, so we'll jump right into it. Our first game that we're going to have a look at, unfortunately no one really streamed their own POVs this week. I can only take from the official Twitch broadcast from ANZ, so you'll have to, I guess, bear with me through that. So looking at the winners semi-final, we had NutriBullet taking on BBR, which is the third time in 3 weeks that BBR have had to try beat NutriBullet. Oh, sorry, I should be calling them Chiefs. It's the third time in 3 weeks that we've had BBR try to take on Chiefs in the winners semi, and they're actually yet to take a map in this lineup, so I can only imagine that they weren't too excited to verse these guys as their step to the winners finals. Nonetheless, the maps that we had are Aquarius Flag, Street Slayer, and if required Live Fire Stronghold. So we'll jump into Aquarius Flag. BBR put in the first flag, and they do so quite convincingly. Everyone on their team is slaying relatively consistently, and then they actually managed to continue this momentum and put the second flag in, and they hold this lead for the entirety of the game, 2-0'ing NutriBullet. And I have to give it to Evil here. Evil had a massive play with 1 minute left of the game to stop NutriBullet from securing their first flag and potentially relaying a second one as well. You never know with these guys, they can be sneaky like that and cap a second flag if you put too many resources on defending a flag that they might have already had. So that actually secures BBR's first map win over NutriBullets in 3 weeks, the Chiefs in 3 weeks, and Pips, who was the new boy on the block, had a shocking first game here, unfortunately for him. Went 11-23, and on the side of BBR, like I said earlier, they're all slaying pretty consistently amongst the 4 of them, which is probably why they managed to take home the W with Pips having such a bad game. So BBR go up 1-0. We're moving on to Street Slayer, and I'll tell you what, BBR are looking hugely improved in comparison to the fights that we've seen them put up against Chiefs in the previous competition. So this game starts off in NutriBullet's favour with an early 6-2 lead, which BBR managed to swing back in their favour by midway at 25-21. BBR seem to be playing really slow, but collectively together and as a unit, everyone is focusing very similar angles, and it was really working out for them going into this mid-game. As you can see, Brattles is very strategic with his movement, his positioning, his angles. He's not sprinting, he's being careful, he's listening, and he's just reacting to his team and managing to get a lot of cleanup kills. But unfortunately for BBR, it was not enough, and they go 3 dead at the 33 all mark. Chiefs ramp up the pace, they take control of the game, and they go on a real run to close out the game 50-44, which takes us to a game 3, Live Fire Strongholds. Now, if you saw the first week, you can only imagine what BBR are thinking when they're put in this position, because they lost 250-79 in the first week in the winners semis, also against Chiefs. Well, I'm betting that they wish they could have that time back, because this time around it was a much worse show for them, and they actually finished the game 250-10 points. Pips made up for its very bad performance in the first game, had a massive performance here, going 13-1, only 1 death, 13 kills, which was also followed closely by a big 13-4 performance out of Barcode. So massively just outslaying BBR in this game, obviously due to their map awareness and how to play that map overall, and winning the series 2-1, putting BBR down into the losers bracket. Chiefs move on to the winners finals to play against Divine Mind. The maps that they're on are Recharge Strongholds, Live Fire Slayer, and Oddball Streets. And I've got to say, Strongholds seems to be the Chiefs' best game mode at this point, and it's not even close. Divine Mind are being outslayed, but in my opinion, nowhere near enough to be down by the margin that they were 5 minutes into the game at 180-17, while only being down by 10 kills. They seem to be outclassed on the map, being out-rotated and out-positioned at all times. You can really see the efficiencies of the rotations out of Madzi and the way they're maneuvering and positioning themselves around the map, and they go into another Strongholds landslide Strongholds landslide victory, 250 to 25 over our second best team in the region. Divine Mind only have 3 players with 7 kills, while Junior's the only one positive on their team, going 17 for 15, whereas everyone on the side of Chiefs is positive, with Madzi posting an impressive 20 to 8 game. Then we go into game 2, Live Fire Slayer. Divine Mind early to a lead, 21 to 16, but Chiefs get around to Slays around the next overshield, coming up to secure that. In conjunction with the sniper in the hands of Pips, Chiefs change their playstyle to a group up, roam and shoot playstyle, capitalizing on their numbers, equipment and weapon advantage to push out what was earlier a 5 kill deficit to an 8 kill lead at the 40 to 32 mark, and Chiefs finished the game by trading out based on this advantage and winning 50 to 44. And I've got to say, Pips, Live Fire seems to be your map. Again, Pips had another huge game here to back up his previous Live Fire performance. So, no surprise, Chiefs move on to your grand finals. Divine Mind get booted down to your losers finals, where we see them taking on Dire Wolves. So Dire Wolves, obviously coming off a 3rd place performance in the second tournament, want to prove themselves and show that they can be better than their past performances. I do want to point out here that Divine Mind and Dire Wolves did actually play each other in the winners semis, and Divine Mind came out victorious. That series went to a best of 3, Divine Mind winning the first game, Aquarius Flag 4-0. Dire Wolves coming to win the second game, 50-43 on Street Slayer, and then Divine Mind winning a close Live Fire Strongholds 250 to 232 to kick Dire Wolves down into the lower bracket and secure themselves a spot in the winners finals. So in the losers finals, which is what we're talking about now, the maps and game modes, we had Live Fire Strongholds, so a repeat from their earlier series, Bizarre Slayer and Streets Oddball. Now, this Live Fire Strongholds was a very back and forth game. Both teams have some big plays to keep the game always within a 20-point mark, all the way until Dire Wolves secure a triple cap and grow an 80-point lead off of it. We get shown to some veteran plays from Dino with the snipe in tower, which also helps Dire Wolves secure the overshield and take the game to within 2 points of a Dire Wolves victory. We then see Divine Mind in a last-ditch attempt to stay in the game fight back from a 248 to 170 deficit, and Divine Mind must have had some God watching over their shoulder here. So Dire Wolves makes what looks to be a final 3-man push toward B Stronghold, which we know can be so hard to fight off in this game given how quick it is to cap a Stronghold and how quickly 3 people can melt someone on the opposite team if they're not ready for a 3-man fight. But Junior, being the smart player that he is, makes a 100 IQ play and baits B Stronghold, then manages to get a sneaky back smack on one of the members of Dire Wolves, who thought B was free, and then manages to contest and put damage down enough for his other teammates to clean up the remaining 3 members of Dire Wolves around that hill. And then the unimaginable happens and Vamped lags out, and Dire Wolves and Divine Mind have to keep playing this game in a 3v4 when Divine Mind have control, and they come back to win that 250 to 248 after being in such a precarious situation for the later parts of that game. So that brings us to Bizarre Slayer, where Slays was absolutely having his way with the boys on Dire Wolves early on, getting off to a quick 9-2 start, while Divine Mind are up early on the game, which was making up for Junior's early goose alert going 0-5. Zirkle, though, on the other side, was also having a momentum-based game, and he was going 10-4 to keep up with Slays. For what was a super close game, the final scoreline of 50 to 43 in Dire Wolves' favour did not really reflect how contested the match was, and the win was in large part due to Dino, who relied on Rockets and the Bulldog to get 4 unanswered kills in a 7-kill spree to close out the map and give Dire Wolves the win, making it 1-1 on the series. So Slays finished that map 17-12, while Junior had a rough 4-13. And on the side of Dire Wolves, Zirkle finished +6 at 15-9, and Dino +4 at 12-8. So good plays out of both of them. Streets Oddball, we had only 2 rounds, and Dire Wolves really showed that they were the favourite and they were the stronger team in this series. They finished round 1 100-77, with the ball spending most of its time around PD and blue, and round 2 they finished 100-61. So Dire Wolves managed to cement themselves as second in this tournament and moved on to place Chiefs in the grand finals. Divine Mind exit in their lowest placing of the tournaments to date in third place, but still managed to secure themselves a spot at HCS Raleigh based on their points that they've accumulated for coming second the 2 weeks prior. And personally, I'm very glad to see Dire Wolves come out of this with a win, because you can only imagine how sour they would have felt losing that game 3 after winning game 2 and being so close to winning game 1 and not technically losing as a team. Like, you lost to your internet. You never know. It's only 2 points. Divine Mind would have had to been playing their absolute heart out to stop them getting 2 points. But you can't say they weren't. You can't say there was no chance that Divine Mind win, but you can say the chances were definitely not in their favour. So glad that Dire Wolves managed to pull that one out of the bag and show that they are a really good team that needs to be thought of seriously. So moving on to the grand finals now, we had Dire Wolves taking on Chiefs Esports, which is obviously something we are not privy to before. We've gotten used to seeing Divine Mind taking on Chiefs. So this is something a bit different. And the 5 maps that we had were Recharge Strongholds, Aquarius Slayer, Bizarre Flag, Streets Oddball, and Live Fire Slayer. So going into map 1, really, I do not have a lot to say about this map. Chiefs did what they do best, and they put Dire Wolves in the blender for a triple cap for 90% of the game, and they win with a swift 250 to 31 and just move on to game 2 just like that. Like, they literally did to Dire Wolves what they would do to a bottom 32 team. It was unbelievable to see. So we moved on to game 2, Aquarius Slayer. Dire Wolves are first to strike in this early game and get off to a 5 or 6 kill lead around the 20 kill mark, largely due to a massive early game out of Vamped, who's going 11 to 3 in the first 3 minutes of the game. Unfortunately though, for Dire Wolves, Chiefs have a barcode on their team who really does not like letting other people get lobby kill leader scores. So by the 30 kill mark, Chiefs had taken back over the leaders. Barcode stepped up to Vamp's current stats of 12 to 8 and raised him a 14 kill to 4 death game at only the 30 kill mark. And it's this momentum that really pushed Chiefs on to win this game 50 to 43 and gain themselves a 2-0 series lead. So Vamp finished that game 17 and 12. Balls, unfortunately, though, on the side of Dire Wolves, going 5 and 12. And Prades and Barcode both finishing with 15 kills apiece on the side of Chiefs, and Barcode with a killing frenzy, which was really the difference. Moving on to Bizarre Flag, which did turn out to be the third and final game of the series. In a similar fashion to Aquarius Slayer, Dire Wolves get the first cap on the board and the first to strike and show that they're here to play, but that cap was a counter cap from what originally seemed like a guaranteed Chiefs cap. Dire Wolves actually managed to stop that at NutriBullet's double doors, so they had a massive effort, and then they managed to secure a counter cap off of that. So that's how they get their first flag. We saw some very high IQ plays out of both teams in this game, but the highest had to be Barcode's sneak pull to secure Chiefs' second flag cap, where he slow walked the flag from the enemy base through bottom rockets all the way to his base, and he pretty much didn't get shot the whole time, because if you're not running the flag, you're not showing up on the radar, and if no one's seen you, they're just taking guesses, especially on Bizarre with so much cover everywhere. So that put Chiefs up to a 2-1 lead, and unfortunately for Dire Wolves, although they fought their hardest, their last-ditch sudden death attempt to tie the game out and head into overtime didn't manage to make it out of Chiefs' base, and they lose that game 2-1, and Chiefs go on to secure a 3-0 grand finals victory, back to convincing fashion, just like week 1. So congratulations to Chiefs on winning back-to-back-to-back tournaments now. So they've had 3 different team lineups the last 3 weeks. The first week they had Seduce, the second week they had Flex Reigns in place of Seduce, and this third week they had Pips in place of Flex, who was in place of Seduce. So that's the lineup that Chiefs are going to be going to Raleigh with. The second place team, and the team that should have been going to Raleigh, Dire Wolves. And then the third place team was, of course, Divine Mind. Now, before we move on to that, I did manage to catch up with Madzi, have a quick interview with him and see what his thoughts were about his team moving into Raleigh. So let's hit that now. Madzi, thanks for joining us. Congratulations not only on your back-to-back-to-back victories over the last weekend, and being the first and only team to get pool play from the ANZ region in Raleigh coming up soon. But also on your massive signing with Chiefs Esports. So how long have you guys been in the talks with them, and why did you pick them over other orgs I assumed that you were talking to?
We've been in talks with Chiefs for quite a while, actually. Obviously, Dan pulled the pin on competing. He was the one chatting to him for a while. And then, yeah, we sort of went to them with what we want, and they just delivered better than any other org could, so we'd be stupid not to sign with them.
Really? So it was just no real negotiation there. They were just happy and kind of saw the value that they were getting out of you guys straight away then, eh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, well, definitely. And I guess picking up from there, you guys are obviously the strongest team in the region. There's no doubting it. You can swap out. You've had three different teams in 3 different weeks, and you core 3 of Barcode, Prades, and yourself seem to continue to dominate. So, talking on that domination, Stronghold seems to be your map at the moment. I don't know if you remember your scores on the weekend, but you 250 to 25 Divine Mind, 250 to 10 BBR. 250 to 31 Dire Wolves. So that's teams 2, 3, and 4. What is it that makes you guys so strong at Strongholds right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's just we're all on the same page with what needs to be done in game with Strongholds. Whether it be collapsing on the last hill or holding and anchoring what we have. I feel like we're just all on the same page with what needs to be done.
And is that kind of transferred over from H5, or has there been some adjustments that you guys have discussed because it plays slightly different?
Yeah, I think it plays slightly different. In Infinite, it's a lot more holding the 2 cap and anchoring what you have. Because if you play like H5, you're constantly playing with that triple cap. You're just going to get spawned behind. They're going to cap the hill that you had.
Yeah.
And it's a big mess.
And you get no points in that whole time. Yeah.
Because while they're capping it, the points stop going up. So it's but that's what we've learned in this game is definitely anchoring what we have and just holding the setup. And and obviously communicating if we're going to collapse on the last hill but I'd say we're just on the same page with it all. It just makes it a lot easier.
Whatever you guys are doing, it's obviously working. So hopefully the success continues over in Raleigh with that. I think that's when alarm bells are going to ring if I start seeing that's the one that you guys get shaky on. So do you guys see any weaknesses in your game at the moment? And if so, either you individually or as a team that you want to expose to the competition?
Definitely our small talk. When we're quiet, we're just calling out one shots here and there. It's very frantic. Nothing's going on. I'd say that'd be our biggest downfall right now is our small talk. And me as an individual, nothing too major right now. I just need to keep grinding the game and training my skills.
Yeah. So, talking on you as an individual, where do you kind of see your role in the team? Are you main slayer, support, or kind of that flex role?
I'd say flex at the moment. I've been doing a bit of everything. I've been really enjoying oddball. That's been a lot of fun. Like, this little crackhead running around the ball, rotating it.
Oh, you mean you've loved holding the ball?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, there you go. That's new, eh? Get me in, Captain. All right, so we'll just finish this interview off with 3 quick fire questions. So you got to say the first thing that comes to your mind. First one, favorite Halo of all time?
Halo 2.
Halo 2. Favorite map in Infinite?
Streets.
And third and final, fuck, marry, kill, Barcode, Prades, Pip.
Oh my god, that's hard. Okay.
Do you want me to tell you Pip's answer?
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you where
Once
he landed.
I say it.
Yeah, after.
Alright, well, because I'm closest with Pip and Bark, I gotta kill Adam. I'm sorry, Adam, baby. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna marry Bark and fuck Pip.
Oh, brother, that's perfect, because Pip wanted to fuck you too. That's awesome. All right, well, thanks for the insights there, Madsy, and all the best in Raleigh. Do us proud.
Try our best. Thank you very much.
So I did mention earlier that there has been a bit of drama about what teams will and will not be heading to Raleigh. So obviously, Chiefs heading to Raleigh, no doubt about it in my mind. They've got their tickets booked, they're all vaccinated, they're ready to go, and they're sorting that out. Now, the second and third team, Dire Wolves and Divine Mind. Dire Wolves, unfortunately, 3 of them are from New Zealand, and I'm not entirely sure of their situation. However, my understanding is I don't know if they're allowed to travel because of New Zealand restrictions and if they're allowed to leave the country or come back. But 2, even if they do leave the country, I know that they have a forced mandatory 2-week quarantine inside of a hotel, which is like $3,000, which obviously is a lot of money. So even though they're getting free flights and accommodation to Raleigh, they're going to have to pay $3,000 just to get back into their country. So I think for that reason alone, that's probably incentive enough to say, no, I can't go. Especially if they're probably not looking at placing in the money. Not to take anything away from them, but obviously you have strong NA competition and they're currently getting bashed by the number 1 Australian team. So Dire Wolves can't go. Now moving on to Divine Mind, who is next. So Divine Mind, we have found out today as of recording this video, they're also not allowed to go because 3 of their team members, that being Slays, Berserk, and Rated, are eligible to go and able to based on state travel restrictions. However, their 4th player, Junior, who they played in the competition with, unfortunately not allowed to go due to the state that he's being in restricting travel and not allowing him to travel overseas. So that the rules state inside of the competition that you must compete with the team in Raleigh that you competed with in this qualifier. Now that's obviously not possible if Junior can't leave, so they thought that they could get Flex Reigns, who is probably an equally good substitute, and unfortunately have been rejected at this stage, and they're trying to figure it out because I know a couple of the members on that team weren't even vaccinated until they realized that they had to be to go overseas, and they waited until the last minute to get that done. So that's going to be disappointing for them if they can't go. But what happens in that situation? So Dire Wolves, their spot gets handed down to the next eligible team, which was R-rated. That's consisted of Ninjastics, Lunchy, Square, and Wrath City. And they're all good to go. They're cleared. So they're going to represent Australia instead of Dire Wolves, they were obviously our next most consistent team. And then I believe Divine Mind's spot was meant to be handed to my team, who was 6th in line, but 3 of us aren't vaccinated and we can't go. So now their spot is going to be handed down to, I believe, Vanguard Escapees, who you would have seen for the first time in this top 8 list. That team consists of Ryu 6, A Benji, Doomed, and Beastin T1. So all COD boys that we've never met before, but hey, the rules are the rules, and if they get to go, then that's an awesome experience for them, and I hope that it really pushes them in the direction of pursuing Halo. It'll be good to have some more competition around here, and the best way to get it is to go through the overseas venues. So there's a bit of drama around that, who's going and who deserves to go, but at the end of the day, the rules are the rules, and the team that goes is the team that goes. So it'll be unfortunate for Divine Mind. They're clearly a deserving team. Especially those players, they've been grinding now for years and they've been at the top of the region for years, so it will suck for them and probably leave a bad taste in their mouth. But I guess the learning curve for them to take is read the rules beforehand and don't expect the rules to be changed, because unfortunately we have to remember that we're dealing with an American organisation that doesn't necessarily understand what's going on in Australia, and that's just the way it is. So bit of drama there, but anyway, moving on. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, then that's good. I'll be making more in the future when these comps come back around. And yeah, leave a comment if you want your Twitch to be featured, if you're going to be streaming. Leave a comment who you want interviewed, anything like that. I'm open to feedback and I'd love your opinions. So thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on your best foot forward. Peace out.
Up to me now, every word that's out of my mouth. Wake up, it's me. You're gonna follow your dreams, or are you just gonna be another cog in the scene? You feel the hope in this beat, yeah, the hope that you need to proceed and be exactly what you want it to be.